Hello, my name is Valentina Castro, and for my final research project, I have conducted a research project relating to artificial intelligence in education and how do students use AI for homework-based assessment. So, when coming in and discussing the topic, it makes one question why I decided to do a year-long study related to such a broad spectrum of a topic. So, when diving into this, AI is obviously an incredibly innovative and new tool, especially in this day and age, with how it's become integrated within society through business, government, economic, healthcare, and academia specifically. And I was more focused on the academia aspect due to being a student myself and seeing how AI has been used to help students with providing solutions, providing answers, new methods, as well as seeing how AI has increasingly grown exponentially smarter over the years. And through this, I also wanted to become more aware of how how AI usage has progressively been within the classroom, and how I wanted to see what way students exactly were utilizing the tool as being a student myself. So it's not uncommon for AI, not uncommon at all actually, that AI has had numerous studies related to it surrounding students and academia levels. Here showing that AI has been used as a crutch for writing support, the ethical implications as well as academic integrity with using such a tool, and as well as measuring and gathering students' thoughts and personal usage on AI in this modern age. So when I was finding more research within the topic, I was surprised that it wasn't exactly showing any research as to how students were using it for homework. So why I decided to focus more on the homework aspect is I believe that homework itself is a very effective method of how teachers use it to evaluate students, especially in the classroom and outside the classroom. When students intake information from the classroom, how do they evaluate that, and how do they retain that information, and do they exactly utilize it and apply it outside? By using homework based assessments, teachers are able to measure and evaluate how students are doing outside the classroom, what needs to be worked on, what is working, what isn't working, etc. So when they gather that information back, they're able to accurately assess how they can refine certain skills in the classroom, what they need to focus on more, and what they need to move on from. I was also surprised on how there was no information of which type of subject students found themselves using AI more in, because I believe that some subjects are more prone to the usage while others are more it's less common in certain ones. But I also wanted to see if certain assessment types were also prone to AI usage as well. For example, if there could be a correlation when it comes to subject and assignment types. I wanted to delve in more into that, and again was just surprised that there was such a lack of information out there for such a topic that's been discussed so widely about. So that led into my final research question: how do students utilize AI for homework-based assessments? So how could one exactly define AI? For again, is such a broad term. It has changed over the years since its initial finding. To start off, AI was first coined, or the term AI was first coined back in 1995 by Professor McCarthy, and it states the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer machines. Well, that term is already outdated, first of all, because a laptop nowadays could be considered an intelligent computer machine. The latest iPhone, even TVs could be considered a smart, intelligent computer machine. So for this research project, I wanted to find a more modernized and relevant term. And here I have a term by Norvig Russell back in 2020 stating, artificial intelligence is the study or is the field of study and development of computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as reasoning, learning, problem solving, perception, language understanding, and decision making. So, for a more simpler explanation and to give you a better example of how to think of this term, one could say that, or AI programs are typically, they have to learn information from this, or they cannot create something that isn't non-existent. So what programmers do is that they put in new information for the AI program to understand. So basically training them by putting in existing images, existing music, existing voices, and the AI program can learn from those and further and expand on from those already existing points. So for another term that I would like my audience to become well acquainted with, for they will be hearing it more from me, is generative AI. And it is a type of artificial intelligence that can create new content like text, images, or music based on patterns learned from existing data rather than analyzing or predicting. Like I said, programmers train AI programs with already existing concepts, and from that, the AI learns from those. So, how exactly did I gather my information? And it was through the usage of surveys and qualitative and quantitative analysis. This particular method was chosen due to an already existing research study conducted by Nathan Ale from the University of Caldwell. And Ale, he also was a student himself when conducting this experiment, and his reasonings differentiated a little differed from mine due to he wanted to find the student opinions on AI himself. So from this, he conducted a survey with 100 students, and from his findings, he dubbed it as a double-edged sword. Meaning that when some of the students, when they were participating, believed that AI was a beneficial tool, and they found themselves turning towards the tool towards its innovative aspects and its helpful and easy ways of gathering and providing information towards students. While another handful was also worried about AI and their increasing reliance on the tool, as well as becoming less confident about their academic confidence and not becoming so assured with their abilities. So from these existing studies that I have mentioned previously, how AI has been used for more literary-based assessments, how students feel like they are losing their academic confidence, as well as do students find themselves using AI more in certain subjects they struggle in more frequently, that they don't exactly rely on their personal skills. It led to my hypothesis stating students utilize AI for more open-ended stimulus-based assessments, being more related to literary-based, and that students that have struggled with a certain subjects rely on AI more frequently than others. So before conducting my experiment, I wanted to think of other outside factors that I considered and added in. What type of AI or types of AI programs do students use, the class types and difficulty, and what type of subjects do students find themselves using AI more in, or AI more in. When it comes to the types of AI programs, do certain AI programs specialize in certain subjects like photomath, obviously being more related to math-based problems, or Grammarly being used to help with literary-based when it comes to grammar checking, etc. Do the class types and difficulty correlate to how students find themselves using, or does it correlate to students' usage in AI? If their class rigor or their class assignment types make them use AI more in, and do the certain class types, etc., make students become more reliant on AI? For example, when it comes to literary-based classes, they will have to write more in, and they will have to use their own words to formulate proper paragraphs, sentences, etc. And so do they turn to AI to write that for them, to grammar check it, etc. So in my survey, I used a list of examples for students to write down, or I had a list of examples of AI types that students might know of, so when they wrote down their own usage or what types of AI programs they were acquainted with, they could use this chart as an example. And here I have ChatGPT, Snapchat AI, Goth AI, Gemini, DeepSeek, Photomath, Brainly, and Grammarly. Some are more common within student, or some are more common within the mainstream. Some aren't as well acquainted with. And the reason I chose these AI programs as examples is how they present themselves towards the media. Specifically, if they have more commercials pertaining to students, to educators, if they're for example, if they have a certain program online that you can pay for, are there student discounts, are there teacher discounts, etc. Snapchat AI, ChatGPT, and Gemini are more outliers in this, with Gemini being a program made by Google themselves. So it's more accessible. When a student wants to look up an answer, they can just ask the Gemini, and they can provide the answer more frequently. Snapchat AI is also something that is more accessible to students because adolescents and teens usually have Snapchat, the app, in their phone, and that is easily accessible, that they can just click on the app and go there right away. And with ChatGPT, it's a generative AI program where it has more ways of gathering information. It is broader. It's able to access more information faster. And it's one of the more popular used AI programs within the United States. So how I did it, my survey consisted of 24 students from the school, Ponte Vedra High School, and the survey consisted of open-ended and multiple choice questions. I picked this formula to give answers due to open-ended being able to find them for when it comes to open-ended, so students can put in their own answers and I can evaluate how their answer is from there. And it leaves them more room to discuss their feelings and thoughts on it. And finally, my survey ensured anonymity and provided consent forms. And if the student was under 18, their parent could look over the consent form and click yes or no if they wanted their child to proceed or not. So how was the information gathered exactly? I used a survey-based assessment or a survey-based questionnaire. Through this, I picked this method again based on existing research that pertains to students with AI. And here, back in 2024, a group of researchers who found out that ChatGPT is more used among students for literary-based assessments, and that is one of the factors that helped me build off for my hypothesis, as well as this other existing study shows that students or researchers look for how students use AI for personal work usage, academic, and other means of statistical analysis to determine the percentage of each. So these existing factors helped me build a foundation for how I wanted to build my method. So in finally concluding my research project in a span of 6 weeks, I was unfortunately only able to gather 24 responses in that time frame. But I still had to keep going on with my project, even though there was a large possibility of marginal error due to the small population size. But from the small participation group, I was able to gather that 50% of students used AI for more open-ended questions, 25% used it for note-taking, 13% used it for other, and 13% used it for multiple choice. And from this chart, even though it looks a little confusing and difficult to read, as well as a little quizzical when it comes to 31 responses, when I just said that there were 24 responses, the 34 responses are the sum of responses. So what students did for this part of the survey was that they would list what AI programs they were most commonly, or they used more in, or they were more acquainted with, and they would list multiple. And the sum of the number was the number of responses that were mentioned. So 17 times, for example, ChatGPT was mentioned in this, or Goth AI was mentioned 4 times from the list of 24 students. And from this, you can see that 70% of students use ChatGPT more frequently than others, it being a generative AI program. And from this, you can see the subjects that students struggled in with most, and the graph shows that it was more STEM-based related subjects were students frequently struggled in with most. So like chemistry, calculus, physics, math. And from these findings, it states that The results led to a correlation finding of 0.67 with a strong positive correlation and a p-value of being greater than 0.05. From the graph, you can see that AI usage, that when students were finding themselves struggling in with most, they wouldn't turn towards, or they weren't finding themselves becoming overly reliant with AI. But as you can see, does the subject you struggle in most in makes you use AI more? And 7 responses, or 31.8, said that yes, they found themselves using AI more with the subject they struggled in with most. And finally, do you feel that AI is affecting your personal learning? And 12 responses stated that no, they didn't feel like AI was affecting their personal learning or understanding of the subject. So for my conclusions, stated that students primarily use AI for open-ended stimulus-based assessments, while also displayed that students are more prone to turn towards generative AI programs, and students who struggle in certain subjects utilize AI more in that particular one. Some contrary findings that surprised me were students were still confident about their academic confidence, despite having past research states that students didn't believe that, or despite past research stating that yes, students found themselves losing their confidence in their academic abilities. But that could be possibly due to the fact that they primarily are using AI as a fact-checking tool. While also stating that also students use AI for more STEM-based subjects than previously anticipated when I initially thought they were going to be more literary-based. Some limitations that I had throughout my process was that there was possible biases in answers where students could put in the answer that they found most, that they made themselves feel better about, or that was more contrary to findings. My small participation group probably made it larger for more marginal error, as well as not as reliable, while also having limited existing research on a subject that's so broad, and that's so, as to reiterate myself from a while ago, it's so discussed frequently about. If one were to ever replicate my project, though, they would need to have a broader and more diverse group of participants, not stick to particularly one school, or to have a larger list of range with students in mind. And these are my references.